To Elon Musk now, facing some new criticism tonight for sharing a fake campaign ad of Kamala Harris on X, in what some are calling a direct violation of the rules on his own platform, X. Musk, who's endorsing former President Trump, retweeted a parody video that apparently uses AI-generated voiceovers in it. It sounds like Kamala Harris calls herself incompetent, again, in this parody video, and labels herself as a quote-unquote diversity hire. Of course, while the video you're looking at is real, the audio playing underneath was fake. And it mirrors the rhetoric that some Republicans have put out there, accusing Harris of being a so-called DEI candidate. The whole thing raising some new and pretty familiar concerns about false, misleading information spreading online for millions of people to see in the middle of an election. We should note, while it wasn't clear in the original post, Musk later clarified online the video was satire. X and Musk did not immediately respond to NBC News' request for comment, but Yasmin Vasugian's been all over this. Walk us through the details here, Yas.
Well, it's interesting, right, because I want to pick up where you left off, declaring, yes, it is in fact satire, but saying satire is not really breaking the law. But you think about how of a punchy pack, this almost 200 million followers, by the way, this video already getting 131 million followers so far. I've been kind of tracking it over the last couple of days. It was originally posted, as you talked about, by a YouTube account called Mr. Reagan, in which it was labeled, by the way, Hal, parody when it was originally posted by this YouTube account. When Musk retweeted it, did not, in fact, at the time, this was Friday, by the way, label it as parody. And just some of the things that you talked about, Kamala Harris and this AI-generated voice, by the way, this thing is fake. It's a deep fake, Hallie. Want to reiterate this, calling herself a DEI hire, going on to say the president is, in fact, senile, hence one of the reasons why she's taking over all AI-generated voice of Kamala Harris here. Want to read for you, though, part of the policy, it seems, in which Elon Musk has, in fact, broken at X, his own social media site. And here's what it says. You may not show synthetic, manipulated, or out-of-context media that may deceive or confuse people and lead to harm, quote-unquote, mistaken media. In addition, we may label posts containing misleading media to help people understand their authenticity and to provide additional context. For Musk's part, again, he is saying, listen, it's parody. That's not breaking the law. But Kamala Harris's campaign is speaking out, Hal, and saying, we believe the American people want the real freedom, opportunity, and security Vice President Harris is offering, not the fake, manipulated lies of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Again, 131, Hallie, million views. Yeah. It is a campaign video with this AI-generated voice. And, Hallie, if you take a look at this, you really cannot tell the difference between this AI-generated voice and the vice president's voice itself. And I will remind folks, I know you're going to ask me a question in which we can kind of get more into this, but you remember there was a robocall from President Biden just a couple of months ago during the New Hampshire primary. And that was also AI generated. It was a fake robocall dissuading folks to turn out for the New Hampshire primary. This is becoming a much bigger issue.
Well, pull out then. Talk about that piece of it.
Yeah, so AI is a new thing, right? And we know that. But we have kind of been talking about the precedent that social media sites have been setting for quite some time. I want to kind of go back to the times in which we were talking initially about ISIS. I remember 2014 and 2015, in which ISIS was kind of posting on social media sites. And we talked about whether or not a terror organization like ISIS should be able to post on these social media sites. And there really was not any precedent, right? We have had various conversations in that iteration over and over again when it comes to social media. You go back to the 2016 election. You go back to Mark Zuckerberg and his testimonies. You go back to 2020 as well, and the misleading information which Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook were accused of kind of putting forward on Facebook, or not, I should say, or not necessarily striking them down. And then, by the way, there's a new YouTube policy that was put into place last year. And let me read this for you, in which they say they're going to stop removing content falsely claiming the 2020 election was, in fact, manufactured and with regards to voter fraud. And they say the reason why they kind of changed their policy at YouTube was because they wanted to openly debate political ideas. The problem with that, Hal, as we kind of talk about this in a bigger picture way, is do you see the 2020 election, what Donald Trump peddled and the lies that he put out there that the 2020 election was fraudulent, as a political idea or a falsehood, right? It is a falsehood. It was a blatant lie. And yet YouTube last year was saying that, in fact, they want this to be part of the debate in debating political ideas. One more thing, Hal, and then I'm going to toss it back to you. The FCC is proposing a first of its kind, I'm reading this for you because it's just coming in, rule to mandate disclosure of AI-generated in political ads. AI-generated content in political ads. I can't even read my own writing, by the way.
That's okay.
Though may not go into effect, but though that may not go into effect before the election. So they're proposing that you have to essentially put out there that this is an AI-generated political ad. But by the way, it's not going to go into effect by November. So they see there's a problem. Whether or not they're going to be able to fix it in time is the issue.
Yasmin Vasukian, we're glad to have you on top of this one for us. More to come on that front, I know from you for sure.
Thanks, Hal.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.